Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to SA Accounting Academy. Here's a short clip on one of our previous webinars. I hope that you really do enjoy it.
I hope you can hear me loud and clearly. We have a bit of a challenge with all the load shedding and the problems with water in our country. I see the internet lines are slow. So what I'm going to do is, if I get a message that my internet line is unstable, I'll just close the video and continue speaking. I hope you're all well. Good morning. I hope you're all well and that you have an informative session this morning. This morning, we are going to speak about and look at the drafting of wills. Now, before I get into it, just to give you some background, this is a very interesting topic, and I had a worrying statistic a week ago that 75% of people in South Africa, the estimation is that they don't have wills. Now, it creates a lot of challenges, and when we work in our environment, I often get a situation where people come a year or two after somebody has passed away, and then they say, but we want to sell this or sell that, and it's still in their name, and the people weren't even aware that they had to report the estate. So this is a very relevant topic, and as accountants, we are in a position to be able to advise our clients. Now, the knowledge that you gain in this webinar will enable you to have the discussion, and that is the purpose. A will is relatively simple if you've been doing it, but if you don't have the experience, maybe you feel you can't do it. But after today's webinar, we will be in a position to draft the will. I've got an example of a simple will, and we're going to go through it. But when we go through the legislation, it just shows you what the important things are that we need to cover. So let's get into it. So officially, I'd like to say welcome this morning. Our slide presentation, or the webinar, is augmented by a slide presentation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a 2-hour session about wills. We also have a session later in the year where we bring trusts into it. So I left the slides of trusts in the presentation for your reference. And I'm going to touch on some items throughout the presentation. Now, estate planning and trusts go hand in hand. And that's why it's important that you should empower yourself with the knowledge to be able to handle the trusts. So about me, my name is Jako Liebenberg. I'm a chartered accountant. As you can see, I'm getting a bit gray. I've been in practice for 20 years. Yes, I work across South Africa with clients, doing audits, tax, all the things that you guys as accountants are doing. I also serve as an assessor in the High Court in tax appeal cases. And yes, that's a very interesting environment. So we see what's going on and which direction things are going. Just on the issue of estates and trusts, SARS has realized that they are losing a lot of money through estates and trusts. So they've been appointing specialists in the SARS head office to look at these issues. And we're finding that we're getting a lot more audit reviews, not full audits, but reviews on trust clients. So yes, it is important to know that SARS is upping their game in this regard. So let's look at our agenda this morning. I've covered the introduction, I think. I want to talk to you about business continuation. It's fine to have a topic like estates or trusts, but most of you are in practice and you're working with clients or you're working for somebody as an accountant. So business continuation is a very relevant principle. And you'll see that on one of the slides we get to, SARS requires now in an estate where there's a business, and most of your clients are small businesses or big businesses, that evaluation must be done in this regard. So if your client has shares in a company or is the owner of a company, then it's important that you understand, and it's a good connecting point with your client to say, but listen, this is one of the reasons why we should be looking at your will, because that company needs to be valued, and SARS has a full unit of share valuators. So any unlisted share or interest in a company it is required that you come or you need to provide a valuation. A listed share is easy. You go to the stock exchange and you find the value for the share. But an unlisted share or an interest in a business, that needs to be valued. So I think it's a very good starting point with your clients, your shares in companies, membership in CCs, or any business structure where they are involved. So yes, that is what we're going to cover. And I think the challenge for me as a professional is, look, I'm an accountant. I'm not a psychologist. So the challenge is we don't easily speak about death. And when we work with clients, it is not a topic that one easily addresses. So let's look at it. Okay, so in terms of trusts and estates, we've got notes on and legislation, an example on the estates that we're going to go through, that you understand the legal background. This legislation is very old. There's two pieces of legislation in South Africa that doesn't often change. It is your property legislation and the transfer rights to properties, and then estate legislation. It's also based on Dutch Roman law. So we'll be going through that. Okay, so what I want you to know after today's 2-hour session, and once again, you're welcome. We have started a group where we have started a group where we talk to each other. So you're most welcome to email me to be added onto this group. I will give you my email address. And we have general discussions and questions on this because it's a very wide field and every person's situation is unique. All right, so I want you after today be able to develop your estate and trust practice. If you have a client, you have a possibility, 100% possibility that that person will pass on at some stage. And you have to develop your selling point in this regard. So you need to understand the legislation governing wills and deceased estates. You must understand the importance of having a will that is legally enforceable. And the challenge for us as accountants is to communicate this to our clients. You have to understand the basic structure of a will and the basic requirements of drafting a will. Okay, so in terms of business continuations, most of your, if you're a tax practitioner or an accountant, your clients mostly have business in one form or another. Okay, so I want to make a bold statement, and it is my experience throughout my career, is that small businesses do not survive death. As soon as the owner passes on, there's not sufficient planning hasn't been done, and then you sit with a challenge where there's a loss of value. Where a business could have continued if proper planning was done, you have a loss of value. I had a situation where one of the accountants from our webinars phoned me and he said, listen, I've got a client, he had a taxi business, he had 12 taxis, he passed away 2 years ago, and the family now want to sell one of the taxis. And they had a problem because the person is dead or deceased, and the estate was never handled. Now, if somebody passes away, you need to register the estate within 14 days. Now, they're not very rigid on it, but that's the guideline. So it's important as accountants, where we are in the best position to work with our clients to plan for business continuation. So just in terms of business continuations, let's look at the risks. And And why I put these slides into the presentation is, like I say, you need a connecting point with the client in terms of developing your practice and your personal skills. So the first reason is that in terms of small business, we need to find the skills or a solution how the business can continue when the owner.
I hope that you enjoyed that video. For more of our webinar videos, go to www.accountingacademy.co.za. Thank you and have a lovely day.